You're listening to The Phillip Jordan Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Phillip Jordan Show. Thank you for checking out the show and making it a part of your day. I am Phillip Jordan from Last Word on College Football and 96.9 The Legend in Dothan, Alabama, where I am the in-studio host of Dothan Wolves Football. Welcome into the Thursday edition of the show. I'm going to pull the curtain back a little bit for you guys. I actually had intended this week to only do one show. I had three fantastic guests lined up. Interview Monday. We're going to drop it on Tuesday. But today's guest was too good. It was too good of a conversation to leave just to not have as his own standalone episode. So that's right. You saw it in the feed. You're seeing it on YouTube on the title of the episode. Jay Stevens from Locked On Buckeyes and the Jay Stevens podcast is joining me on today's show. We will be talking about the Ohio State spring, the quarterback competition there with the Buckeyes. We'll talk about CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young. Who should be the number one pick? Who should the Panthers take with the first pick in the draft? And that's coming up next week. We'll also talk about, because Jay is a fan of the Indianapolis Colts, who hold the number 4 pick in the draft. I'll ask Jay, what should they do with the pick? If it's quarterback, should it be Anthony Richardson? Should it be Will Levis? We'll get Jay's thoughts on that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A good 30-minute conversation with me and Jay. You can check out the Phillip Jordan Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I'll read it on a future edition of the show. And if you just leave 4 stars, you're just a straight-up hater. You can also check out the show over on my YouTube channel, the Phillip Jordan Media YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell for all notifications, and please leave a comment on a video, and I'll read it on a future edition of the show. You can follow me on social media at pjordanscc, or you can email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. All right, joining me now on the show. I talked to this guy since before the college football playoff. Jay Stevens, host of Locked On Buckeyes and the Jay Stevens podcast. This guy has a lot to live up to, because last time I had him on the show, we did over 3,000 views on YouTube. But Jay, I appreciate you coming on.
Phillip, glad to be back. And yeah, the last time we've been together was a long time ago, way longer than I thought it had been. But I'm glad to be back with you here, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Before we do that, though, congratulations are in order too. Congratulations, Jay, you are getting married. So I wanted to air that out there too as well. Congratulations to you on that, because that's how long it's been since we have talked.
Thank you so much. It was a very fast process. Met a young lady July of last year, and about 6 months later, we were engaged. We knew it was bound to be at that point at some point pretty quickly, and the wedding we'll get married. It'll be less than a year, about a few days prior to us, our 1 year mark of meeting each other. A few weeks actually will be when we're getting married in July of this year. So very quick process. Found a beautiful young lady who I love very much, and looking forward to getting married. It was a unexpected process, because I didn't think it was going to be this quick, but when you know, you know. And I look forward to marrying Miss Whitney Merrill at the beginning of July.
Yeah, awesome. That's awesome. I see no football season wedding, so there you go too on that as well.
You know me too well, Phillip, to let that fly. You know. Now, I will say this, though. She said, like, the fall was her thing. we will make it happen. We will make it happen.
Hey, that's what they make bye weeks for, my man. That's what they make bye weeks for. But anyways, Ohio State. Let's jump into that. They coming out of their spring game. I mean, this was a loaded Saturday of spring games.
Oh, man.
I told you off there. I was in Tallahassee checking out Florida State. So I had to get caught up on everything that was going on with all the spring games. But let's kind of like backtrack a little bit though.
Yeah.
Before the spring had started, going into the spring, what was the big storylines or the things that you were wanting to pay attention to a lot when it comes to Ohio State?
I'll do 3. I won't give the entire list because it's pretty lengthy. Because Ohio State's team has a lot of work to do currently, even at the end of spring practice, going into the beginning of the season in the fall. My 3 biggest things were the quarterback competition. Stroud's out. Who will be the next starting quarterback? Number 2, offensive line. 3 of the 5 starting offensive linemen from last season, they are going to be drafted in this year's upcoming NFL draft. Number 3, the secondary. Denzel Burke, returning corner, had a really bad sophomore season a year ago. You bring in a transfer from Ole Miss. You also have Jordan Hancock, who is a work in progress, but looks like he is coming into his own. The safety position, it needs a lot of work. So those are my 3 big things: quarterback, O-line, secondary, and that's even prior to the beginning of spring practice. If you talk to me January 1, what are the things you're looking for with Ohio State's team in the spring? Those would be on my list.
Yeah, and with the spring game, interesting.
Yeah,
because the Gray beat the Scarlet 40-31. People watch a video wonder why my head was down. I have a bad podcast host, forgot to write down the spring game score. Now you were there, so what's the atmosphere like at an Ohio State spring game? I know, like I said, I was in Tallahassee at the Florida State one. It was mostly just the game, a little tailgating, but the game. What was the atmosphere at the Ohio State spring game?
Mainly just the game as well. There were a typical tailgate spot within not far from really the one end of the stadium. There were some people selling some things, and you had the pro shop out there selling some stuff. Had a couple of food trucks, but it was really just a game, not the full-on tailgate that you would get during a fall season at Ohio State, but it was pretty much just a game. Now, Phillip, I will tell you this. This is the second spring game I have attended. I attended last year's. I attended this year's. 75,000 people attended this year's spring game at Ohio State. Last year, there were 60,000. Neither one of them are the record for Ohio Stadium as far as hosting a spring game. And so it's really amazing to see the fans at Ohio State and how passionate they are, that on a beautiful sunny day in April, people are coming to Columbus, Ohio from all around the state of Ohio and all outside the state as well to come to the spring game, because we're all watching to see, is Kyle McCord capable of being a starting quarterback? Has he won the job right now? But it was just a game, very a laid-back atmosphere. I did hear I heard a couple boos because the kicker missed a kick. Now, I am in the stadium. I didn't realize how bad he missed the kick. I went back on the YouTube and rewatched that kick. It was bad. It was an atrocious miss. And so I did hear some boos, but that was the only boos I saw. Really laid back, relaxed atmosphere, and people just happy to see football in April.
The missed kicks have got to be a sensitive subject for Ohio State too. I mean, I just wondered if that maybe had some little motivation behind why there were some booing going on with a missed kick. What stood out to you the most during the spring game? Like, who stuck out? What was something that really jumped out at you?
The defensive front 6, because Ohio State runs a 4-2-5. The defensive front of Ohio State was really a lot better, a lot crisper than I expected. The offensive line is a work in progress, working in 3 new starters. Even a starter from a year ago might get bumped out to left tackle to move the now left tackle, the guy who played left tackle during spring practice, move him back to the other side of the line at right tackle, where I think he is best suited to play football in the upcoming season. But defense was the thing. You mentioned the final score, 40-31. We didn't add, Phil. There's no context to that score. 1 touchdown was given to the Ohio State offense because they let Archie Griffin come on the field, take a handoff from Kyle McCord, run up the right sideline for a touchdown. And they counted that. It was offense, defense. Gray was defense. The Scarlet was the offense. So if you really take that away, you're looking at, 24-40? The offense was not able to really do a whole lot in this game because the defensive front was doing a phenomenal job getting in the backfield, creating things, disruption for the offense, getting a hand or an arm or whatever, a limb in the pathway, the throwing lane of Kyle McCord or Tristan Gebbia. They did a phenomenal job. 5 sacks for the defense on Saturday during the spring game. The defense, a unit that needed to play better, did that and showed signs of improvement during Ohio State's spring game.
And that's the thing when we look at the spring games. And look, Nick Saban talked about this last week on one of his press conferences. It's like you're going to be happy on one side, upset on the other after a game or a scrimmage. It's like, okay, the defensive line played really well, but then you want to flip it over. Did the offensive line play bad? And you mentioned they're replacing 3 guys from last season. Last season, they only gave up 12 sacks. 4 of those were against Georgia.
Yeah.
What is the state of this offensive line? Is this something that Ohio State fans and the team should be concerned about? Or should this be more, hey, just our defensive line was really good? I mean, where's it at? Or is it just somewhere in the middle?
No, they should definitely be concerned about it. I was not pleased. I've heard the unit has been working, doing some good things. Inconsistent play would be the best phrase or 2 words I could put together to describe what that unit did. And I think there were guys playing out of position. Now, Josh Fryer, starting left tackle in the spring game. Good guy. I think he's going to start. I think he's better suited on the right side. Right side, right tackle, right guard. Probably right tackle is where he's best suited. Donovan Jackson, left guard, starting left guard last year, starting left guard over the weekend. He is someone that I think will be a starter. Will it be guard or tackle? Carson Hinsman, the center, plays very well for a guy who's trying to earn a starting spot, but a guy who he's competing against in Jacob James is currently injured. Right guard Matt Jones not going anywhere. Right tackle, that is the biggest position that he's worked on right now. Secretary Shabola and then Zen Michalski, neither one of them have really submitted themselves as a potential starter in the upcoming season. So yes, as much as I will praise the defense and defensive line for getting pressure and creating 5 sacks and just getting in the passing lane, going lane of the quarterbacks, I'm not going to be someone that's going to dismiss the play of the offensive line and say, oh, it was just the defense is way too good. No, the offensive line needs a lot of work. I am so glad, Phillip, we're about, 4 months away from the start of the season? Because if the season started tomorrow and Ohio State played Notre Dame in 3 weeks, I would be on this podcast, maybe throwing a prediction out there without you asking it. I would say Notre Dame would win the game, and the offensive line would be the problem would be the reason why. Because they need a lot of work, and I'm glad it's April. We got a whole lot of time, a lot more practices to go before week 1 of the upcoming season, so I do think it's a work in progress, but I trust Justin Fry, the O-line coach, Ryan Day, the head coach, to get things done and to fix the wrong things with this unit before the season starts.
And obviously, offensive line, a lot of people probably figure, Phillip, why didn't you mention quarterbacks first? No, because it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. If the guys up front can't block, he's a sit duck. It doesn't matter. I mean, the guys up front is what runs your offense. I mean, your skill possession players are only as good as the offensive line, in my opinion, because that's the guys that set everything up. On quarterback, so Kyle McCord was the guy. He was 18-34, 184, 1 touchdown, had a 37-yard pass to a Carnell Tate in the game for a touchdown. Redshirt freshman Devin Brown did not play, finger injury. And I've heard you mention McCord a lot. So in your mind, is McCord the guy, or could Devin Brown come in the fall and take the job?
So I'm going to tell you 2 things. People are going to be like, dude, why do you do this? Why are you going to say a couple options? Because I think there are 2 sides to this story. There's what I think is going to happen and what can happen. What I think will happen is that I believe Kyle McCord will be named the starting quarterback during fall camp in the upcoming season. Not just him being the longest tenured quarterback on the roster, his experience with Brian Hartline, Corey Dennis, Ryan Day, that trio of coaches. I think Kyle McCord is the guy. Kyle McCord needs some work, man. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a guy who was so stellar over the weekend. No, you read off the stats, but I'm there in the stadium, and I'm like, man, this ain't looking too hot. This ain't looking too good. He's okay, but it's not looking too good right now. So I think Kyle McCord will win the starting job. I also understand that was a scrimmage that I saw over the weekend, a practice, which has nothing to do with what's going to happen in the upcoming season. So I'm not putting too much stock in the first live practice. I have watched full live scrimmage. I have watched this offseason. Now, what can happen, Phillip? Now, you mentioned Devin Brown, redshirt freshman, I believe. Hurt a finger on his throwing hand, has a procedure. He'll be out for probably 4 to 6 weeks. Be back in the summer throwing. In a quarterback competition with neither person being the clear-cut favorite right now, you may say, is one guy going to talk another guy into going into the portal or whatever with the portal window for the spring opening up literally on the 15th on the biggest spring game Saturday that we had this offseason. Both quarterbacks plan on staying at Ohio State, Kyle McCord and Devin Brown. And so I think what can happen, Phillip, is that we could see a scenario where Devin Brown comes back. He's more mobile than Kyle McCord. He's better on his feet than Kyle McCord. We can see a scenario where literally Devin Brown comes back, lights it up, and wins the job, even with an injury during that season. Many people out here, Phillip, he's a big SEC guy down there in SEC country. You may say, hold on. So there's a guy at Ohio State that has an injury during a QB competition, Joe Burrow 2.0. And I saw that all around social media from people at Ohio State saying, I've seen this story before. A quarterback who's in the competition at Ohio State it gets hurt during the competition. Ultimately, he ends up transferring because he doesn't win the job. Joe Burrow in 2017 was in a QB competition with Dwayne Haskins. Joe Burrow got hurt. Dwayne Haskins won the job. Joe Burrow it was a really tight competition, and I think the injury was a part of it, but I still think Dwayne Haskins won. I'm not going to sit here and say that Joe Burrow was fully healthy, he was going to win. I don't know. I think Dwayne Haskins had won the job. But what I will say is I don't think it's the same scenario where Devin Brown's going to transfer like Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow wanted to go play, and he realized his window was closing to do so. So he went down to the Bayou, and the rest is history. I think Devin Brown's going to stay. Like I know the reporters out there at Ohio State, and they're going to be out there saying, I got this source, I got that source. Whatever, man. I think Devin Brown's going to stay. I think he'll compete. You could see a scenario, though, like in 2018. Or was it? No, 2018 competition with the two quarterbacks, Haskins and Burrow. Got my years mixed up. But like in 2018, you could see a scenario where if Devin Brown transfers, he could go start somewhere else. I don't know. I think he stays. I think he can actually win the job. I think it can happen. But my gut says, and I believe that Kyle McCord will be announced as starting quarterback in the upcoming season. That was a lot to say. Didn't know I was going to say that much about Kyle McCord, but that's what happens, Phillip, when we wait this long to start about the guy who started at quarterback for Ohio State over the weekend.
Yeah, you gotta get out, help me out. I don't have to talk as much, so just let Jay take over. But the thing, and we kind of go back to offensive line. I mean, and I'm gonna throw something out there to you. Save this offensive line going into camp isn't good going into the season. Okay, I'm not saying Kyle McCord can't run, but we know Devin Brown has more mobility.
Yes,
and then sometimes you may have to say, okay, he's not the better passer. But he can get away from trouble with a weak offensive line. Is that kind of a scenario too? You think we may need to look at
a little, but I don't know if that's a big deciding factor with the coaches.
Yeah,
we have seen Ryan Day over the past couple, 2, 3, 4, really since 2018 when he had more control of the offense. We have seen Ryan Day really show us what kind of quarterback he wants. From Haskins in 2018, Fields in 2019 and 2020. Stroud in 2021 and 2022, he puts an importance and a premium on having an elite arm from the quarterback. Fields the most mobile. Haskins the least mobile. All three quarterbacks are really, really good. Like you're talking about Haskins first round, I believe. Fields first round. Stroud. You're talking about 3 first-round quarterbacks that are different in totality from each other, but they all have one thing in common. They had elite arms in college. And so I think with that in mind, I think Ryan Day puts a premium on the throwing of the football. I don't think that the offensive line will be that as big of an issue as it is currently week 1 of the season. I think there'll be some tinkering. I think we can see a scenario where guys move around a little bit, get in the right spots, and let this thing work, which will aid whoever the starting quarterback is. But if you're trying to play to the weaknesses of your offensive line, by who you decide to be your starting quarterback, ultimately that might be a bigger problem than you think during the season. So find a quarterback that fits what you want, and then also make the offensive line better as well. So Devin Brown's mobility could be needed. I just don't think that his mobility will be that big of a deciding factor as far as who has the better control of the offense, who can throw the ball better when we huddle, who has a better command of the huddle, which, Phillip, you and I love college football. They've gone away from the huddle for a long period of time. Get to the NFL, some guys can't command the huddle at all because from high school to college, could be a 7-8 year span, you've never even been in a huddle. You don't know where to stand in a huddle. You don't know how to look somebody dead in their eyeballs and say, hey, man, that's on you. Hey, catch the ball next time. Hey, instead of cutting here in your route, cut here. Instead of breaking down here in your route, break down there. Like, a lot of guys don't know how to do that. Ryan Day, I think, is going to find a way to figure out who the best overall quarterback is, along with Brian Hartline and Corey Dennis, the quarterback coach. Mobility might be a factor, but I don't think it'll be as big of a deciding factor as some think it'll be from the starting quarterback.
We may, in a few minutes, talk about a quarterback, though, that has experience with that, but we'll table that for right now.
Okay.
Before we get out of Ohio State with the spring defense, we talked about the defensive front.
Yes, sir.
But linebacker in secondary, I kind of see some stuff where secondary might be a concern. Is there of those two areas on this defense, is there questions that need to be answered between now and the season?
Yes. I'll go secondary, and I'll make this quick because I have been long-winded. But this is what happens when you and I don't talk for a long period of time. I just have so much to say, Phillip.
Well, you need to start asking me on your show more often. Maybe we'll get to do this more often.
Shots fired. I got you. I'll send the text at the end of this. So, Phillip, with the secondary, let's start in the back end first. There are questions. I think there are three options that can start at outside corner. Only two spots. Three options. Denzel Burke, Davison Igbenos, the Ole Miss transfer, and Jordan Hancock. I think that position is going to be solid, and I think we'll get back to the traditional cornerback play that we used to see at Ohio State. Haven't seen it since Jeff Okudah and Damon Arnett back in 2019. With the safety position, now I'm going to add in the cover safety spot, as Ohio State calls it. Traditionally, I call it the nickel corner. The nickel corner spot really isn't that big of a deal, or cover safety. It's either going to be Cam Martinez or Jahad Carter. Carter, Syracuse transfer, got hurt during spring practice. He is someone that I do believe could be starting there at that spot. When it comes to safety, free safety, strong safety, as we traditionally know it, that's a question, because I don't know if they truly trust Josh Proctor and Lathan Ransom to get the job done consistently. Ransom, yes. Proctor, I believe in. But I don't know if they're going to be the elite playing guys that Ohio State needs. Ransom played really good a year ago. Proctor got benched because of one bad play in the first quarter of that game. They benched him, which I thought was a dumb decision. But I think it's still question marks there. Linebacker, here's my thought about linebacker. There's a guy out there named CJ Hicks. He is at Ohio State. I believe he's a sophomore. Could be a redshirt freshman, actually, because he didn't play very much at all last year. But this young man reminds me of the linebackers Urban Meyer used to bring to Columbus. Like the physique, the body, the mindset, the way he carries himself on the field. Reminds me of an Urban Meyer type of linebacker that Urban would bring in. If he plays the way that I think he's going to play week 1, 2, and 3, the two starters at Ohio State at linebacker, Still Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg, could be playing along a third linebacker more than they think in CJ Hicks, because I think he's going to be that good. So I think the linebacker spot is solid. Eichenberg and Still Chambers, two starters at the two linebacker spots in Ohio State's defense. CJ Hicks could see a lot of playing time. So I think he's just going to be really, really good. Just have to play college football. He didn't play a defensive snap last year, which I thought even in like mop-up duty he would have played. Nope, didn't play one. I think this year could be a time where you see an Ohio State linebacker be crazy elite like we're used to. Also, another guy, Sonny Styles. People in Ohio will love him. I don't know if he's ready to play just yet. Some people say it's his time to play safety. I'm not sure. I'm not really sold on now the time for Sonny Styles. I'm closer to saying it's time for CJ Hicks to play at linebacker for Ohio State in 2023.
So everybody just got a good breakdown of the entire defense. And we do not need Phil Steele. We do not need Lindy's. We do not have Fline. We have Jay Stevens. So just jot down the roster. You just got it right there. But no, it's going to be interesting with them because defense line is really good, intriguing the other spots. We know what they could be up front on the defensive line, which that could cover up a lot of stuff, especially if your secondary is weaker. Because if you're getting to the quarterback, it doesn't matter if your secondary is not up to snuff, because if quarterback's sitting flat on his back, it don't really matter. Speaking of quarterback, so now here's the controversial questions that I must ask here on the show today.
Oh, boy. I mean, you already hit me with the wasn't really a controversial question. It was more like a shot. You already threw one dart at me. Maybe you should have me on your show more. So I don't know how crazy this could be. That might be the wildest thing that could happen during this show. But, yeah, come on. What else you got for me?
All right. So the NFL draft is fastly approaching us.
Yes.
And a former Ohio State quarterback, CJ Stroud, you mentioned him on the top, no longer there. Him and Bryce Young, it seems like that's a healthy discussion on who should be number one.
Yeah.
And you look at Carolina, and I think it was Mel Kiper Jr. talk about with Frank Wright. He's never had a quarterback under 6'3", 6'4". But then everybody's picking Bryce Young apart because of his size. Now, look, as an Auburn writer, this may upset some people out there. I am on the Bryce Young side of things. If I was a GM of any team, I'm taking Bryce Young number one, just because what I've seen him do when he had less. Actually, I was more impressed with him this past year than I was the year before. But you're the guest. I'm playing the question out to you. As a guy that watched CJ Stroud throw every pass he threw in college, would you take him over Bryce Young with that number one pick?
No, I'm going Bryce Young all the way. I put it this way. I could break down the throws. I could break down the incompletions, the interceptions. I'm not going to go even to like the film study, Phillip, the crazy film study that some people do on YouTube. I'll simply say it this way. When I watch Bryce Young play football and when I watch CJ Stroud play football, one guy plays a position of quarterback better than the other. If I had to rank them and say who plays it better, Bryce Young plays quarterback better than CJ Stroud. Stroud might have the better arm. Stroud might be more accurate. Stroud might be the person that can make all the throws. When I watch football, CBS, okay, side note, it's going to be really weird to not see SEC football on CBS. My entire lifetime being a college football fan, SEC on CBS, and actually that's what's drawn me to be more of an SEC person and fan of the sport and the traditions down south was because of CBS. So for it to be no more SEC on CBS, and if I hear that music and see Penn State there, I will be really upset. But the music might be the same, which I think is a bad marketing for CBS. But actually, I think it's actually great marketing because you're not trying to play a different song. You're playing the same song you've been playing 25 plus years. So keep it that way. But no, Bryce Young plays better. Just plays the position better. I understand the height. I understand the weight. I understand the limitations that they will bring at the next level. I get all those things. I still think Bryce Young is the better option, better quarterback. And I think the Carolina Panthers will probably take him. Well, also they should. But sometimes Frank Reich's hard to read. I'm not a big Frank Reich guy. Didn't really do well when he was in Indianapolis as the head coach. I think Stroud is more of a Frank Reich type of quarterback. I just think that Frank Reich is going to realize Bryce Young is better. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I did not mean to trigger something. I kind of actually had already forgot that Frank Reich coached the Colts. And I know that's your team. So that leads me into the final question.
Yeah.
Colts are at number 4. That is your favorite NFL team. So the Panthers have the first pick. The Texans have number 2. We assume quarterbacks taken by both teams, and that would be Stroud and Young off the board. Now, let's just say the Cardinals, they're at 3. Unless they trade out, there shouldn't be a quarterback taken in this spot, Kyler Murray. So you're sitting at 4, if you're Indianapolis Colts. Jay, my first question, and don't elaborate, just answer just this question.
Yes.
Do the Colts draft the quarterback? That's the first part of it.
In the draft?
First, and with that number 4 pick, do they take a quarterback in your opinion?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to stay with that. I know I would get long-winded. Yes, excuse me. This is not what I think should happen. Yes, I think they take a quarterback.
Okay, so this is the second part of the question. Is it Anthony Richardson or is it Will Levis? Now, because both are a risk. Either one of those guys is a risk. Now, I think Levis can play earlier because what we were talking about earlier, a quarterback that has gone in the huddle and taken snaps under center. Of the 4, Will Levis is the only one that has done that. He does have experience there. But if you were the GM of the Colts and you were going quarterback, which of the 2 would you take?
Both options aren't good. Like, neither one of the options are really good for what the Colts want or for the NFL team wants. Goodness gracious, I don't like either one of these guys. I don't. I may tell you what I think I would do, but gosh, this is horrible. Goodness. I think they'll take Anthony Richardson. I do. I think he's going to fit more about what Shane Steichen wants from a quarterback. Style of play. We saw from Jalen Hurts last year the style of play that that the quarterback had with the Eagles. I think Anthony Richardson will fit. Oh my gosh, that's horrible. I can't believe I said that. Oh man, the Colts could have the number 4 pick next year too. Gosh, that's bad. Wow, yeah, I think Richardson's going to be their pick at 4. Oh goodness gracious.
Okay, so let me add on because obviously I could tell you don't think they should go quarterback because you don't like either one of these guys. That's
no.
Fair. What do you think they should do with that pick then?
Take a tackle or a defensive lineman. Paris Johnson Jr., Peter Skoronski, maybe higher than many project, but take one of them at left tackle, revamp the offensive line, or take Jalen Carter's going to be available because I think Will Anderson Jr. goes to the Cardinals. If Will Anderson Jr. does not go to the Cardinals, the Colts better take him. Ditch the quarterback. Go get Hendon Hooker. Like, I literally think Hendon Hooker is a better quarterback than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. And to me, those of you listening, those of you watching, you got to see me almost have a full-on meltdown thinking about the Colts drafting Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. But honestly, Phillip, I think the Colts, if they can't get Young or Stroud, have a plan B, and your plan B is work on defense. Your plan B is also getting Hendon Hooker in the second round and maybe trading somebody to stockpile more picks on draft day. Because to me, if you're going to draft Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, you're telling the fan base, we're going to be bad for another season, maybe 2. Gardner Minshew is a good backup. He's not a starting quarterback. He's a quarterback at Ohio State, for the Colts right now. Your other quarterback is Sam Ehlinger, not a guy who's going to be a starting quarterback consistently for the Colts. So you're going to bring in Will Levis or Anthony Richardson. If those are your 2 options, hard pass. Get Hendon Hooker. I think the age thing is should not hinder the Colts. What is he, 24, 25? I don't care how old he is. He is a good football player. I think he's a better option than both of the guys. Will Levis, not really that good. Anthony Richardson, really inaccurate. I don't care about his combine numbers, his height, his weight, his 40, his vertical. I don't care. Can he throw the football? Hendon Hooker, a better thrower of the football than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Also, I had no idea I was going to go on that rant, but there you go.
Well, I'll say this, and then we can close it up. But with either one of those quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, you can't start them year 1, especially Anthony Richardson.
Look, I agree. I agree with you.
I said my piece on him. He should have came back for another year of college. He needs development.
Sir. Yes.
Either play college or go play in the USFL because you need some more time to develop your skills as a passer because, look, he played great against Utah. He had moments. Okay, so everybody will look, and I'm going to close it up, Jay, because I kept you for way too long. Florida State was an exciting football game. High scoring, came down to the wire. I believe, I don't have the stat right in front of me, so I may be a few attempts off. Anthony Richardson was 9 of 27 in that game. So he makes the play and it looks great, but there's not consistency. There's not that accuracy. Right. And hey, so what? He can jump high. Last time I checked, that's not a quarterback trait that we have to worry about. I mean, I guess maybe it's a snap. Okay, good. If the center shoots the snap way over his head, he can go up there and get it. I guess that's the best thing about that trait. But I'm with you. I understand where you're coming from, the quarterbacks, but it'd be interesting. The draft is upon us, and I can see your passion and your energy for the Colts. You're ready for it. You're ready for it. And I'm sorry I almost gave you a nervous breakdown with the quarterback question.
Oh,
but
my gosh.
Before Jay does have a breakdown, before I cause issues and the people at Locked On come after me because they can't have a Locked On Buckeyes the rest of the week, Jay, where can the viewers and the listener find you if you want to follow you and all the great work you're doing?
Phillip, I love being on the show. I really appreciate it. And you will definitely be on the Jay Stevens podcast coming up really, really soon. You guys can follow me on Twitter at JStevens07. If you like some of the things that I say here, you'll definitely love the Jay Stevens podcast. It comes out once a week, every Wednesday, where your boy just shares some things that are on my mind about things going on in sports. One of them being the Jalen Hurts contract. We will definitely touch on that on this week's show. Also, every single day, one of my dreams, Phillip, has been to host a daily show full-time. That's hopefully coming really, really soon. The Locked On Buckeyes, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, slowly starts to get that urge a little bit of satisfied. You like Ohio State stuff? You want to learn more about how Ohio State's team's going to be in the upcoming season? Maybe you're Georgia and Alabama and LSU, somebody who you think will make the playoff in the upcoming season. You want to know what's going on with the Buckeyes? Tap in and Locked On Buckeyes every Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. You can follow the show there, Apple Podcast, Spotify, the YouTube. You can follow Locked On Buckeyes. It's free and available on all platforms.
All right, Jay. Everybody go check it out. Check out Jay Stevens' podcast. Check out Locked On Buckeyes. And Jay, I always appreciate the time, and I look forward to talking again sometime down the road.
Look forward to it, man. I really enjoyed this.
If you enjoy this podcast and live in the southeast area of Alabama, check out the Wiregrass High School Football Report, brought to you by DGO Strategies. During high school football season, I talk with local coaches and look at the biggest stories and games. The show will be returning soon, and you can check it out on Apple Podcasts, the Phillip Jordan Media YouTube channel, or 969thelegend.com. Now, back to the Phillip Jordan Show. What a fun conversation with Jay Stevens. It's always great having Jay on the show. So please go check out the Jay Stevens podcast. And if you want to know what's going on with the Ohio State Buckeyes, go check out Locked On Buckeyes as well. That's going to do it, guys. We're going to get out here just the conversation, just the interview on this episode. Alabama, LSU have spring games this week. We'll be talking about that next week on the show. Colorado. Hey, Louisville has their spring game on Friday night. So we got some spring games going on. And I will announce this here as we close out the show. I am developing a new podcast. As some of you have noticed on some episodes, I would close out picking some XFL games, or I think I did the USFL last week. So I am going to develop a podcast where I talk spring leagues. Right now, leaning on the spring football report. That's where we're talk the XFL, the USFL, and the CFL. I know that goes summer into fall, but it was either alt football or spring football report. So it's kind of all in the same thing. People get what you're talking about when you say spring football. So I'm kind of jumping into that. Hopefully, maybe Thursday or Friday, I'll have the first official episode of that. My history, why I'm a fan of those leagues. He kind of get into this weekend and this past weekend and play some audio from Josh Boutwell talking about the Birmingham Stallions last week. So that's kind of what is on the table for me moving forward. And very soon, I'm telling you guys, I've been saying this, the Wiregrass High School Football Report. You just heard the spot. I'm bringing it back soon. It's going to be soon. Just keep an eye out for that. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great weekend. Watch some spring football, spring games with college, and also hey, give the XFL and USFL a shot. I think it's fun football, so I think you'll enjoy it. But anyways, I appreciate Jay. I appreciate you. You're why I do this. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy your weekend. And as always, let kindness be your compass.
Thanks for listening to The Phillip Jordan Show. Subscribe to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch the show over at the Phillip Jordan Media YouTube channel. Got a question or topic idea? Email the show at sportstalkphillipjordan@gmail.com. Join us next time for more great football talk.